Hello, and welcome again to Bible Answers. I have a double question to answer right now. The question is, how do we know that the creation account each day doesn't represent a longer period of time? Doesn't the Bible teach that 1,000 years is as a day to the Lord? And my answer to that is, yes, the Bible does speak about ordinary time and prophetic time. Ordinary time is a 24-hour day, folks. Prophetic time is 1,000 years. 1 day equals 1,000 years. And I'll get to that. But first of all, let me try and answer the 24-hour day time period. In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 26, I read, "Lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number? He calleth them all by their names, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faileth." So here it's talking about the Creator God, who created all things. Now in Psalm chapter 19, verse 1, the Bible says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." Now in chapter 33, verse 6 and 9, I read, "By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, and all the host of them, by the breath of his mouth. For he spake, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast." It doesn't take God 1,000 years to speak something into existence, dear people. God speaks, and it is done. It happens just like that. Now we go back to Genesis, the first chapter, and here we read the creation story. And it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And God said, let there be light, and there was light." You see, God spoke, and it happened. God said, let there be light, and there was light. It didn't take 1,000 years to speak light into existence. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament, and the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And then, verse 9, "And God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and gathering together the waters called he seas, and God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, and herbs bearing seed, and the fruit trees yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so." And verse 13 says, "And the evening and the morning were the third day." So now we've covered 3 days. Now notice verse 14. Verse 14 says, "And God said, let there be light in the firmament let there be light in the firmament of the heavens, divide the day and the night. And let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens, to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night, to divide the light from darkness, and God saw that it was good. Now, here's the thing that is important, I believe, to notice. God made plants and trees and that sort of thing on the third day. Now, if say each day was 1,000 years, then it took 1,000 years for God to make the sun. What would happen to the vegetation that God made on the third day if it took 1,000 years to bring light into place? See, God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day. We know that's the sun, is it not? And the lesser light, that's the moon, to rule the night. And he made the stars also. And so I'm suggesting to you that this is 24-hour days. This is not some long period of time like 1,000 years, beloved. God made the sun and the moon to rule the day and the night. And beloved, it's been so ever since creation. That's the way it's been since creation. And it's the same today. And God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night. And he divided the darkness, and God saw that it was good. So here we have the sun and the moon, 24-hour period, day length here, same as we have today. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And then on the fifth day, God created the whales and the living creatures that move within the waters, that bring forth abundantly after this kind, and every kind of winged fowl made his kind after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the waters in the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth." And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And then, of course, on the sixth day, in verse 26, now this is God going to make man here, and God is making man in his own image. It says in verse 26, "And God said, let us make man in our image, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls, and over the cattle, and over the air, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he, male and female, created he them. And God blessed them, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And, beloved, and the evening and the morning, in verse 31, it says was the sixth day. So God, it says in verse 31 also, that God looked upon everything that he had made, everything, and he said it was very good. And that's the sixth day. And then we go into chapter 2. And in chapter 2, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. So after 6 days of creation, we have God resting, and he made a memorial of his creation. After he looked at everything he had made, behold, it was very good, and then he left us a memorial. It's like the birthday of the world. And that seventh day is a special day, and God rested on that day. He blessed that day. He sanctified it. That means he set that day apart as a day of worship, a day to meet with God in a special way, a day when we can come together and fellowship and worship God and sing praises to him. And that seventh day, beloved, that was set aside at creation is the same seventh day that we have today. And there was that weekly cycle has never been changed from that day to this. That weekly cycle is very important. And if people would only recognize that and receive the blessing that God put in that seventh day for us, then I'll tell you what, the world would be a different place in which we live today. It would be so different, because that is when God set aside the weekly cycle. And beloved, you can check with the astronomers and with those who keep track of time, and they will tell you that that weekly cycle has never been changed. The sun rules the day, the moon the night. Beloved, the Bible is clear that from the going down of the sun today will mark the beginning of a new day tomorrow. And again, the same is true the next day and the next day. So we're looking at 24-hour daytime periods here when God created the heavens and the earth. So that time period is beyond question, and it's recognized by those who study time and who have calculated time down through the ages. And that 7-day cycle has never changed from that day to this. People argue, oh, man changed the calendar. Yes, he did, but the weekly cycle has never been changed, and we must keep that in mind. The weekly cycle has never been changed. Now, we're talking about prophetic time, and that's a little different, because the Bible does speak of 1,000 years. Actually, it speaks about a 1,000-year time period in 9 different places of the Bible. 6 of those time periods you will find in Revelation chapter 20, is mentioned in verse 2, verse 3, verse 4, verse 5, verse 6, and verse 7. So that time period, 1,000 years, is mentioned there. We could take a look at those verses because it would do us good to look at those periods of time right now, because it's in Revelation chapter 20, and we're looking here beginning with verse 2. It says, he said, and he laid hold on the dragon, the old serpent, which is called the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. All right? And so that's talking about 1,000-year time period here. And verse 3 says, again, it says, and cast him into a bottomless pit, shut him up, set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years were finished. And verse 4, again, it talks about 1,000 years, the same in verse 5, and verse 6, and verse 7. These are 1,000 literal years here that we're talking about. All right? Now, in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, we also see a 1,000-year period, and this is where I think the question comes from. It says, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. So what's that verse saying? That verse is simply saying, dear ones, that God is not looking at time the same way we do. God is not governed by a 24-hour clock or a watch or a timepiece. God lives in the realm of eternity. And so time means nothing to God. 1,000 years for him is like a day. A day, 1,000 years. God is not governed by time like we are. But when we talk about prophetic time is something different, because the Bible is clear in Numbers 14, verse 34. And this, by the way, this method of interpreting time prophecy is laid down by Moses way back here in the beginning of time in this world. That Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, by the way. And here he's talking about prophetic time. And it says in Numbers 14, verse 34, after the number of days that you searched out the land, even 40 days, each day for a year, and you shall bear your iniquities, even 40 years, that you may know my breach of promise. So here God is talking about prophetic time. And so prophetic time is different. Again, we read in Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6. In Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6, the Bible talks again about that principle here. Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6. Notice, and when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah. 40 days I have appointed thee, each day for a year. And so, again, we have 2 different time periods. The 24-hour day, which God created the world. God spoke and it was done. And after 6 days of creation, he set aside a memorial of his creation, which is none other than the seventh-day Sabbath, which he blessed, sanctified, and set apart as a memorial, a birthday of the world. That is 24 hours. That time period is governed by the sun at day and the moon by night. But when we get into prophetic time, then a day, we must understand, equals a year. And that principle is laid down by Moses. It's followed by all of the apostles and the prophets. They understood that time period to represent a day for a year. That principle is also understood and followed by the great reformers when they were interpreting time prophecy. They interpreted each day for a year. They understood that. And that's how it is, folks. And that principle is followed by Christ and by the apostles. The great reformers understood that principle, and we understand it today also when we interpret time prophecy. And as a result of that, and we know it's true because you can work it backwards and forwards. You can start from the end and go back to the beginning, or you can start from the beginning and go forward to the end in terms of establishing dates, time periods. It's very important that we understand the difference between the two time periods. I hope that will help you to understand this question, and I hope that answers your question. Thank you.